Wait, let's try it.
Okay.
You go first.
So you breathe out entirely.
All of your
and
air.
then you press your, like, throat. Wait, you do it. It's here. It's
Okay.
right here.
Push like that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby. Why are you laughing already?
Hey guys, it's Caitlin.
Hey, Anyway, for some reason tonight we're just on one.
We are.
We weren't able to record immediately after this movie, so we're at home now, and it's like pretty late at night. We're both ready to go to bed, so we have like the sleepover giggles. So we apologize in advance. We're both very tired, even though I took a 3-hour nap after work.
So jealous.
Don't know why that happened necessarily.
We're never sure, but it just does. So
It just does. So this week I feel like just in the honest pursuit of a Regal deal, we're still hustling for it, Regal. I mean, please send this to Regal, tag Regal.
yeah, help us get a sponsorship.
Help us get a sponsorship. We are Regal's #1 fans.
100%.
But we had never done something that Regal does until this week, which was Mystery Movie Monday.
We had never participated.
Never participated, never experienced, never witnessed. And what it basically is it's a $5 movie for regular patrons, obviously free for Regal. Oh.
I was just
singing two different songs.
Okay, go ahead.
Regal Unlimited. It just made me think of SNL whenever Kristen Wiig and Fred Armisen would sing together.
Yes.
We did not do as well as they normally do. But not only is it a cheaper price than a normal movie, it is also a movie that is coming out in like a couple of weeks. So it's basically like a preview.
It's like an early release.
Yeah, it's like an early release. And I don't know why we just like aren't Monday movie people. So we
Not
never really thought to
usually.
check it out. But we went for it this week.
We did. We just tried it.
We just tried a little thing. And the first thing that we noticed walking into this theater was that it was packed.
Yes.
It was one of the larger theaters in our like local theater. Like it was one of the larger theater sizes. And there was somebody in every row of the theater. And I guess it's like a cult thing because it seemed like people kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
There was a very like loose etiquette.
Yes.
People were in blankets, and these 3 guys in the back row thought they had their own podcast through the whole thing.
Yes.
And were like openly discussing the movie, like just
As it
making
was
comments
happening.
as it was happening.
Yes.
Guys, no matter how comfortable you are in a theater, don't do that.
No, it doesn't
Please
matter
don't do
where you are or who you are. You shouldn't be talking
Even
in a
if
movie
that's
theater.
your little tradition. The only time it was funny was right when the movie started. There was a guy like towards the very front of the theater that just went, well, at least it isn't the shark movie.
Before he did that, though, did you hear the lady go, yes?
Yes.
And I was like, what even is this?
We were so confused and thrown off. I think like I keep up with movies and what's coming out, and obviously like I research what episodes we're gonna do in the future.
Yeah.
I watch trailers. I had never heard of this movie.
Nope.
Apparently that woman has.
That woman has been waiting for this movie.
I was convinced it was going to be Evil Dead, and I know you like have no interest in seeing that, so I was
No.
super concerned that we were going to have Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really happy that it wasn't Evil Dead, and it was something that neither of us had heard of before, because I think it made for a really interesting theater experience.
It was like really bothering me at first.
I could tell you were so uncomfortable.
And then when you kept like trying to guess what movie it was, and all of your guesses were things I actively don't want to see. I was like, oh fuck, is it gonna be a movie I really don't even want to see, and I'm gonna have to be forced to like watch something like. And then also the like type A in me was just very disturbed about the fact of like not knowing what was gonna happen. I don't love a surprise.
No. And I thought they were going to show us on our ticket, like at 7, like, oh, this is what you're actually seeing.
Yeah.
You get nothing. So you go through the trailers and you can kind of like guess by the trailers. You can try to guess. I did not guess accurately at all because there were a couple of horror trailers before. And so I was like convinced it was a horror movie. And it was not. No. So needless to say, when Sisu started, we were just confused. I don't even know what the word was for. I was confused. I was like excited because it wasn't any of the things I thought it would be. And it starts out with kind of like this map of Europe during World War II. And it explains what's going on in World War II at this time. So I initially was just like, oh, it's a war movie that I had never heard of. And I was like, not the biggest fan of war movies. I like war movies, but I was a little bit worried because I was like, Caitlin's going to hate this. And yes, this does take place during World War II, but it absolutely not a war movie.
No, it's not a war movie.
It was nothing like I thought it was going to be. And even just like what we experienced in the first 5 minutes of the movie didn't even give me a hint at what the rest of that experience was going to be.
Nope.
Honestly, one of the most surprising theater experiences all around, not just because of the Regal Mystery aspect of it, but the movie itself truly was a surprise.
Quite a surprise.
Can you give us a little Google synopsis for the folks at home?
Let's do a Google synopsis.
It's not going to do it justice, but we're going to go for it anyway.
It definitely isn't. Okay, Sisu. During the last days of World War II, a solitary prospector crosses paths with Nazis on a scorched earth retreat in northern Finland. When the soldiers decide to steal his gold, they quickly discover they just tangled with no ordinary miner. It was directed and written by Jalmari Helander.
All we know about him is that he's Finnish.
And that we hope that's how you say his name also. So please don't come for us.
Yes, we apologize.
We don't speak Finnish. So.
Right. So it was very clearly a Finnish movie, but it's in mostly English. And we are going to do spoiler, no spoiler, because my God, so many spoilers to discuss. But I am very curious because this movie was something that I thought you might despise. Not just like dislike, but despise. What did you think of Sisu?
I did not despise this movie.
I'm actually shocked.
But I will say there were a lot of parts of this movie that I despised.
Yeah.
I thought the concept was cool. And I thought it was a cool story. And I thought that the acting was really good. And I thought the cinematography was beautiful. But yeah, there's...
But that's about it.
There's some things that it just could have done without.
A few less bodies exploding, maybe?
Yeah, a lot.
A
lot less bodies exploding. Would have been great, honestly. Would have been great.
I think we really lucked out with this movie, and I'm going to tell you why, is that despite there being a few issues with etiquette, I think having a full theater with us was a huge reason why I enjoyed this movie. As a one-time experience, I had an absolute blast. It was like John Wick meets Inglourious Bastards meets Mad Max. You could see all of the inspirations that this writer and director pulled from. But then with this like insane added element of over the top gore. The gore was done in a way that was so contrasting to the rest of the movie that I was a little confused why they went there. If that makes sense. Because it was not like the gore in, say, like All Quiet on the Western Front, where it felt like it was like very realistic. Everything about this movie was over the top.
Right.
But like you said, the cinematography was actually like really beautiful. They had, I mean, it was a little, there were one too many lens flares for sure. But based on the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, when you're getting to know our lead character, who is this miner who, I guess his backstory is that he used to be a Finnish soldier and he left and is now mining out in the wilderness of Finland.
Yeah, basically he was just like, fuck the war.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go try and find some gold.
Yep. With
And
my
just, like,
dog and my horse.
Yep. And just like be a dude in the woods.
The whole start of the movie was this guttural soundtrack where it sounded like the Northman, like Viking sounding music. It was like,
Yeah.
And it was just these beautiful landscape shots and this man surviving by himself with his 2 animal friends. And when he like strikes gold, his reaction is like this exhausted exuberance of like, oh my God, I've been working for this for like months and months and months. And not previously seeing a trailer for this, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a nice little film. This is going to be like a little war film. I was so wrong.
It was so wrong.
From the second he comes across this group of Nazis traveling this road, it just goes from ridiculous to more ridiculous to like the term jump the shark is very apparent. Like, this man does things that obviously no man could ever do. But I did have a blast watching it. And there was one moment in particular that I'm embarrassed to say I clapped.
I don't remember.
You don't remember me clapping?
I remember you clapping, but I don't remember which part.
We'll talk about it in the spoiler section.
Okay.
But like, I was so like jazzed up in the moment that like I was enjoying all of it.
Right.
Usually I'm the opposite with movies, where if I see something that like I'm kind of iffy on as the week goes, I like it more and more. This one I'm liking less and less.
Interesting.
And it's something that I don't think I'll ever watch again.
Okay.
But I'm really thankful for the experience of seeing it.
Okay.
So I will say that if you do choose to see this when it comes out, see it prime time, like when most people would be at the theater. So like a Friday, Saturday night, and go with a group of your friends.
Yeah.
Because at its core, it's a comedy. Like, it's an action comedy set in World War II.
Yep.
So like, if you are okay with gore, because there is a ton of it, just make sure that you experience this movie with other people, because I don't necessarily think this is something you just like watch at home.
No, it wouldn't have the same effect,
No.
I don't think. And it wouldn't, the impact just wouldn't be the same.
No.
And the experience would not at all be the same.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of agree with you. I think for me, if I knew anything about this movie before we saw it, I think I would have liked it a lot less.
I think you would have hated it.
I think I definitely would have hated it. But because I had zero knowledge going into it, like I had no preconceived notions, and I just experienced it for what it was.
You know what it reminded me of was like back in the late 90s and early 2000s when you would go to the movies with your friends and you didn't have a movie picked out, and you would just show up at the theater and like look at the times and be like, well, there's one starting in 15 minutes. I guess we'll see that one.
Like, it's that one.
Yeah. And we didn't really, I mean, we had the internet at the time, but there wasn't like trailers that we would watch online. That wasn't a thing. So you would just sometimes show up to the theater and just watch whatever was PG at the time. That was literally like, pick the PG movie and go to that one. And it really brought back that feeling of just accepting a movie for what it is, and like you said, not having preconceived notions. More than I can recommend Sisu, I just want to recommend actually doing a movie Mystery Monday, because there was something just very special about the experience of walking in so incredibly blind to a movie experience.
I won't see this movie again.
No.
and that's okay. And I didn't hate it, but like 100%, I would do the Mystery Movie Monday thing again.
Yep.
The energy in that room was different.
It felt like a little club.
It felt like a little Marvel movie. Like it felt like that same kind of energy of like a Marvel premiere where everyone's like hyped and everyone's like kind of talking.
We were taking bets as to like who would leave, and we were wrong. There was a woman next to us who was in her 60s probably, who had her little blanket and her little popcorn, and I was like, if this is Evil Dead, right? Like she's gone. She's
gonna leave.
And this movie is probably more gory than Evil Dead is.
Sure.
And I was shocked the only person who left was a young man.
Yeah.
Who came by himself. He was like, I'm out. And you know when he looked like he was going to be out?
When
it looked like the dog was in danger, he stood up and left. And he was just like, I'm gone. Well, which, speaking of, the dog is the best part of the movie.
100%.
What an actor.
Literally a paid actor.
The one-eyed sheepdog. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
This
Wait,
gray
he only
little...
had one eye?
Yeah, he was missing an eye.
Oh, I never even noticed that. He was so beautiful. I didn't even notice
so
that
gorgeous.
He was flawed.
Even though he's like in and out throughout the movie. Like he leaves and he comes back and he leaves and he comes back. He's just the best little guy. He's so cute.
He really is. And you know what I thought about in the movie and also I'm thinking about right now? I want that sheepdog and Jenny the donkey to have a movie together.
Oh my God.
I want them to act in a film together.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. Just like the two most wonderful little animals in the acting world at the time. Give them both an Oscar.
Immediately. Now, I will say, in terms of acting, even though he said 3 or 4 words in the whole movie, but he was first of all, jacked for an old guy.
Yeah. What the hell?
Like ripped.
Yeah.
There were a couple scenes where I was like, okay. Like
you were like, Zaddy.
Pop off, Sisu. Which Sisu isn't even his name.
No.
It's just like they describe it at the beginning. I guess it's a Finnish term.
Per Wikipedia. So we cite our sources here. Sisu is a Finnish concept described as stoic determination, tenacity of purpose, grit, bravery, resilience, and hardiness, and is held by Finns themselves to express their national character. Who knew that like Finns were so fucking badass?
I know, right?
I didn't know that like they're just like, yeah, that's our national character, is just like we're badass.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it.
I definitely
Nordic
believe it.
people are just built different.
Totally different.
I really did enjoy his character. I thought he carried the whole movie literally on his back.
Yeah.
And I thought if he didn't give such a like captivating performance in the very unique way that he did, I think it would have been very easy to write off the rest of this movie because the Nazis were terrible actors.
Yeah.
Also dubbed horribly. There was some issues with the audio. They were speaking English with German accents and their mouths were creating those words. So it's not like they were speaking in Finnish originally and they like dubbed it over.
Right.
It was like they didn't get their audio and they ADR'd it, but they ADR'd it badly. Did you notice that?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't.
You didn't notice that?
No. Okay. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really didn't notice that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. Was it like super obvious?
It was very obvious.
Really?
I'm kind of shocked that you didn't pick up on it. It was primarily like the main Nazi.
The one
like
with
the bad
the
guy.
bald head.
The one with his leather jacket.
Oh.
The biker Nazi.
I
looked
didn't.
like a little biker, bro.
Yeah, he really did. No, because I'm ADHD, I have to like really pay attention to what they're saying so I don't
like
get lost.
Yeah,
so I'm just like listening more than I am looking
at
like one specific thing, if that makes sense.
I would say beyond the very repetitive gore, I think this movie was already short. It was like an hour and 30 minutes. It dragged in the middle. I thought it would have been interesting to get to know characters a little bit better. Like there's a captured group of women, of Finnish women that the Nazis have enslaved basically. And there was one that's like a badass. And I like wanted to know more about her. I don't even think we got her name.
I don't think so either.
And to be honest with you, my biggest complaint was that I don't really understand why the lead himself wanted the gold.
Okay, I had the same issue.
Right?
What was he going to do with it?
There was no explanation for it.
There was no explanation, and it didn't really appear that there was even anything that he could do with it.
He really fucked up these Nazis because he wanted his gold back.
Right.
There was no other reason. There was no other real reason. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that limited him as a character a little bit for me, because it wasn't like he was fighting for something or someone or a cause, or, you know, it just seemed like it was this like selfish desire. And what was more interesting to me actually was why the Nazis wanted the gold.
Yes.
Which the Nazis straight up said, we're gonna lose this war. We're already losing. And when we get back, they're gonna hang all of us. And if we don't come back with this gold, we're dead. And he was basically like, this is our ticket to like survival, basically.
Yeah.
And so that made sense to me. Like
100%.
Of course they would go through all these ridiculous measures to track down this man and face danger because he's this like insane fighter.
Right.
But I just didn't understand. Like there was one scene where he was like desperately like scooping up the gold.
Yeah. But what's he needed for?
Yeah.
We didn't know.
I didn't get that.
No.
So there were some just issues all around with this movie. But again, I think it was something that was an experience. It was fun. Again, I clapped.
You clapped.
Look at me clapping. I'm not like a clapper in film. Like I'm not a movie theater clapper. But I wanted to launch myself out of my seat when this scene happened.
I think I do remember it.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section. But before we get there, what is your popcorn score for Sisu?
I'm going to go medium just because of the whole experience of everything. Yeah. So this is a little bit of a scaled. This is on like a bell curve. Yeah, it's a medium, but not like, I would say the movie for me is like teetering between a small and a medium.
Yeah.
And then like the movie Mystery Monday gets a large popcorn for me. Yeah. Just for like the concept of that.
It's a great concept.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think I'm going to agree that Regal Movie Mystery Monday gets a large. I'm going to give this a solid medium. It made me clap. I was obsessed with the dog. The lead was great, even if his motivations didn't make a lot of sense. But again, I just don't see myself watching it ever again. I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate the experience of being in that theater with that group of people watching that movie. But that being said, there is a subsection of people who are going to love this movie.
Absolutely.
Like adore this movie. It's going to be a cult thing for sure. There's going to be a Sisu cult.
That lady is going to lead the cult. The lady who went, yes. If it tells you anything about how I personally felt about this movie, on the way home from the movie, I asked Abby if we could watch Arthur when we got home.
Please, I need PBS.
I needed some PBS Kids in my life real bad after this movie, guys. I'm not going to lie. I really needed some PBSkids.org. And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. Like just that just is wholesome for me. Sisu was not wholesome.
Sisu's not wholesome.
And I need more wholesome things in my life, like Bar Rescue.
Is Bar Rescue wholesome?
To me it is.
John Taffer screaming.
John Taffer,
the most wholesome thing
John
ever.
Taffer as a person is wholesome, and you can't convince me otherwise. He makes me feel safe even when he's screaming. I feel safe with John Taffer.
Welcome back to the spoiler part of the episode where we can talk about all of the nitty-gritty, truly gritty aspects of this movie.
Yeah.
Can I first begin with the clap?
Okay. Begin with the clap.
Okay. So in this movie, like I said before, there is a group of enslaved women who very thankful that we don't see it on screen, but it's very clear that they are sex slaves. And these Nazis basically just have them in a truck. And there's one of them in particular who has some like fight in her. And she's just like, fuck these dudes. And she basically teams up with our lead. And after he gains control of this truck, he provides all 6 of these women machine guns.
Yes.
And they maneuver this truck to the front of the caravan. Mm-hmm. And there's just this scene where it looks like a covered wagon almost, but it's a truck. The cover flips up and they just open fire on this entire truck full of Nazis. And it's just these women just lasering them down, just chopping them up with their guns.
Yes.
I felt like my body was going to just like launch into outer space. It was so great. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love that scene was because I was missing motivation in this movie and I wasn't connecting to the lead, and I was trying so hard to I rooted for him just simply because he was fighting Nazis.
Right.
Which, like, of course, that's like,
sure.
Yeah, fuck up the Nazis.
Right.
But when it was women who have been raped by these men, getting their vengeance and just lighting them up with guns that came off the dead bodies of their comrades. Yes. There was just something so incredible about that. No,
there really was. And I felt the same way. Yeah. I didn't clap, but I felt, I felt the same level of excitement. And of course, like, we love to see women being empowered in any way. Yeah. Honestly, I do think that was interesting because, like you said before, Sisu was whatever his name is, he did kind of seem selfish. Yeah. Just as a person. Yeah. And so this was a moment where he wasn't selfish and he empowered them. Yeah. And it was partly because they were Finnish too. And like, it was kind of like, hey, we're all Finns, whatever. Yeah. But I just think like, that was an added layer to that scene where it was like, oh shit, like now they're working with him.
My favorite though was that he kind of smiles because of what these girls are doing. And it's the first time we see any emotion from him besides just stone-faced, I'm gonna fuck you all up, like looking dead in their eye, like right. And so it was a nice element of seeing them not only surviving, because I was a little bit worried that we were going to see them all get killed somehow, and to watch them all survive and get revenge, kill these dudes, it just felt better. It felt better than any kill our hero had.
Oh, 100%.
When we first meet these women, they're scared and whimpering and crying. And when we leave them at the end of the movie, they are just these badasses walking down the street with their guns.
Yeah. And like, they're fine.
Yeah. And they actually walk all the way to a line where there's Finnish soldiers like waiting for them. And you can just see like the soldiers like, how did you do this?
Yeah. Like, what even happened?
So, I mean, hashtag feminism, but by 100%. Far, my favorite part was their story.
I totally agree. And I thought that was interesting. Yeah. That they made basically side characters have far more development than the actual lead who was in the entire movie.
I know that there's a market out there for over-the-top kills and violence. And again, like, I'm a horror fan, so I don't need a believable kill scene. But when he's hanging from an airplane with a pickaxe, that's when I was like,
yeah, we got way far off track we got really far off track.
And like, I totally understand that he is this legend, basically, that he's this immortal legend. But at one point he was like slicing their necks open and breathing the oxygen out of their neck in order to survive underwater. Yeah. And I was like, what is happening here?
So many things happened. And you're like reliving all of my traumas from this movie for me right now.
And then the minefield where just, I think like 4 men and the horse all blow up.
I'm still really, really, really upset about the horse. You know what? I didn't want to see a horse go out like that.
I know, but for some reason, the model horse that they had after it blew up didn't look anything like a horse. Like, its face looked like a stuffed animal. So it didn't upset me because I was like, you know what? I didn't hear it suffering. It wasn't like tortured. It just went kaboom.
I know, but I don't like a horse to go kaboom.
I know. I've re-traumatized
you. Yeah. You reminded me about all the bad parts.
I also really wanted, after he got on the plane and he had this big end fight with like the final bad guy Nazi. I don't know why. I just wanted him to find a parachute and jump out before it crashed, because I wanted there to just be one last bit of realism that I could believe that this man would still be alive. He survived being underwater for 10 minutes. He survived a hanging. He survived a minefield, getting blown off a horse. And for some reason, none of them felt quite as ridiculous as him surviving a literal plane crash in a tin can World War II supply plane
where the whole plane was just disintegrated.
Yes.
Like there wasn't a piece of the plane left.
It was just him.
But he was there.
I understand like having fun with this movie, because obviously like we still had a lot of fun with it. And things don't always have to be realistic, especially I mean there's superhero movies, horror movies, fantasy movies, whatever it is, but there's just something about this movie that after a certain point even I was turned off.
They lost me way before they lost you. I can tell you that much. Quickly moving past all of the trauma, what were your thoughts about the ending scene
of him in the bank
where he dumps out all the gold and then says he wants it in big bills and cash?
Because it'll be lighter.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird.
I thought it was like it progressively got more, like you said, more and more ridiculous.
The entire city around him is like burning to crisps, but this one bank is standing
and people are working
there. It was very odd. Everything about it was odd. He seemed like the last person on earth who wanted money.
He seemed like the Finnish Ron Swanson.
Yes.
Like he seemed more like the type of person who would find gold to bury it himself, to keep it for himself, just to say that he had it.
Yeah.
Like that's what Ron Swanson basically did.
Yeah.
And so like it didn't add up. And I was just kind of like, it was funny.
It was fun.
It was definitely funny. Like it was a funny scene, but it was just kind of like this whole time we've been literally in the middle of nowhere in Finland. And then we end in a city, quote unquote, even though it's falling apart.
Right.
And he's like cashing in his money at like the Finnish Gringotts. Like
what did
look like Gringotts. And it's just like,
honestly, if there were goblins, this movie's so ridiculous.
It could have.
Honestly, if he showed up and there were goblins working the bank, I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have questioned it. I absolutely would not have questioned it.
Well, that does it for us. We need to get Caitlin to bed.
Whew, that'll do it for me.
Put on Arthur and go night-night.
Yeah.
We will be back not next Friday, but next Monday, because unfortunately the show time that we are seeing of this next release is just way too late for us to record and edit for Friday. There weren't a lot of options to see this, but it's going to be Beau is Afraid, which is Ari Aster's new movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which very excited to see.
Very excited.
So we will be back with another episode Monday, May 1st. Until then, we hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.